Morning, guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at our objective. Today, we will be able to plot ratios on a coordinate plane. For today, we're going to be building on yesterday's lesson. So if you need a reminder at any point of how ratios work, please go ahead and stop and take a look at that lesson and then come back to this one. Like always, using a piece of blank paper, unless you're able to print out the lesson, and folding it into fourths to show that, your work, and also showing our two rules of everyone tracks, so pausing and rewinding at any point, and everyone tries. Let's go ahead and take a look at our do now. Our do now today is a little bit different than it usually is. It says, every one student has 6 pencils. Complete the table for the given ratio and plot the values on the coordinate plane. So what that means is they want you to go ahead and fill out this table first, and then double click on this in your Google Classroom, and you can actually edit it. You'll have these two little dots, and I want you to go ahead and drag them to where you think they belong on this chart, or on this coordinate plane. Again, double click on this once you've filled out your table, and then drag those two little green dots onto where you think your answer would be. Go ahead, take as much time as you need to do this, but make sure you have this table filled out and also those two little dots moved. Again, I do not expect you to have the totally correct answer because we're just learning this today. Go ahead and take your best try and come back when you're ready, pausing in the next 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So at this point, you've already taken a best guess on this question and you have some sort of answer written down. Let's talk about how to actually solve it. Now, there are two parts to this question. The first part is completing this table, so with our students and pencils and our ratio here. And the second part is actually how to graph this, or how to plot your points on the coordinate plane with your ordered pair. We're going to talk about the table first, and then we'll go ahead and move on to this part. So again, let's talk about this table first. We know that every one student has 6 pencils. So our ratio here is 1 to 6. So 1 student to 6 pencils. So in our chart, I just went ahead and drew one right here, we would have 1 student to 6 pencils. So it would just be 1 to 6. Again, building on what we did yesterday with our charts, right? So what they're saying is if this continues, what would our chart look like? Or sorry, what would our table look like? Now, if you notice, they don't give you anything here to write. That's okay. All I want you to do is write down what the next one would be. So for here, for 2 students, how many pencils would we have? Thinking about our rule, and remembering that whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So for here, our rule is going to be times 2. Remember, we never use addition when we're finding equivalent ratios. We always use multiplication, same thing with our fractions, right? So here, our rule is times 2. So whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So it would be times 2. So that means 6 times 2 would be 12. So we'd have 12 pencils. So for every 2 students, there are 12 pencils, so our ratio is 2 to 12. Now, we're going to go ahead and pause for a second and actually go to the computer, double click on it, the chart there, the coordinate plane, and we'll go ahead and talk about how to actually plot those points.
So let's go ahead and take a look at how we would put our answers into this chart here. So we've already talked about how our ratio of students to pencils at first is 1 to 6, and then the next one we would have is 2 to 12. So I want to really remind you that when we're talking about ratios like this, we can also rate ratios as an ordered pair. So it'd be 1 to 6, it would look something like that. And then our next one would be 2, and this is how we would write it, 2 to 12. So when we think about how to plug in an ordered pair onto a chart or a graph, we just go ahead and plug it in the way it's written. So remember, we go over and then up. So we're going to start with a 1 to 6. In order to do that and edit this, what we're going to do is double click on it, and it's going to bring this up. And what you can do is you can take these 2 green dots, and we're going to place the first one on 1 to 6. So we start at 0. So again, just kind of drag it around. We start at 0, go over 1, and up 6. We're just going to drop it right there. And then the other one was 2 to 12. So we're going to go over 2 and up all the way to 12 right up here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have our 2 to 12, up to 12 right here. And then we just leave it. So what we would do is we would just press save and close. And now those are marked right there. So that's how we'd put these in. So our first ratio again is 1 to 6. So 1 to 6 is marked right there. And then 2 to 12, again, just over 2 and up 12. Remembering that we already did this during the school year. Remember, you have to walk before you can jump, right? So you have to walk over to the over and then up, right? Up to 6. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next question.
Nice job, guys. So we took care of our first example. Let's go ahead and do one more just to make sure you fully and really understand what's going on. So for question number 2, it says, every box of candy has 8 pieces of candy. Complete the table for the given ratio and plot the values in the coordinate plane. So we already have our table set up, and then we'll go to our coordinate plane in a minute there, right, with our ordered pairs. But first, we're going to go ahead and say that for every one box of candy, there are 8 pieces of candy. So we're just going to go ahead and fill that out. I'll actually write it down right on here. So for every one box, we have 8 pieces of candy. So we have our 8 there. Now, thinking again, we're just going to build on this. We don't have any partial equivalent ratios here. We don't have our candy. We don't have any more in our boxes. So we're just going to start counting up with our boxes. So for every one box, there's 8 pieces of candy. So over here, we're going to go to 2 boxes. And we're going to go ahead and figure out how much candy would we have there. Now, very similar to our ratio earlier on our do now, our rule is going to think about what our rule is going to be. It's going to be times something, right? And whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So we're going to do the same thing there. Go ahead and fill in what you think our answer is going to be for our candy. Go ahead and do that. I'll give you about 15 seconds. So our rule at this point is going to be times 2. So whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So 8 times 2 is going to give us 16. So our ratio here is 2 to 16. Let's go ahead just one more time. We're going to walk through how to actually plot this. And then we will get started on the next question as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we would plot this on the computer.
So now that we have our table filled out, we're going to go ahead and talk about how to fill in our chart here just one more time as an example, just like we did for our example number 1 or our do now. So here again, our ratio is boxes to candy. So our first ratio is 1 to 8. That would be points 1 to 8. And then we have boxes or our ratio 2 to 16. So that would be ordered pair of 2 to 16. So we're going to go ahead and double click on this in just a second. And then when we do that, it's going to open it up and we're going to plot our 1 to 8 and then 2 to 16. So let's just go ahead and double click on it. And remember, we go over and up. You have to walk before you can jump. So we're going to take our first point here. We're just going to grab it and we're going to move it over from 1 up to 8. So 1 to 8 right there. First one is there. And then we're going to do our second one, which is 2 to 16. So remember, over 2 and up 16, making sure we're putting it in the right line. And we are all set. So we have 1 to 8. And then 2 to 16. Here, I'm going to go ahead and press save and close, and it'll go ahead and update your image for you. And this is what I'm going to take a look at when I'm grading. So remember, I'll be looking at 2 parts. This first part right here, and then the second part will be your table or chart. If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. Go ahead, call me or text me with any questions. Remember, I will be looking at both parts for each answer. All right, have a good rest of your day.